Hello friends and family of YouTube. Today I'm going to show you how I built this outdoor kitchen for under $2,000, and that includes the TV and the Blackstone grill that I've got. I built this completely by myself in 2.5 days. Now if you've looked at some of these outdoor kitchens on Lowe's and Amazon and some of these kits that you can order, it takes 2 to 5 people to build these things. I'm going to show you how I built this completely by myself. And the best part about it, if you've ever built anything with your father or your grandfather, you know that you've got to drive stakes in the ground for 2 days and have strings going everywhere for you to trip over, and it's the most boring thing in your entire life. I built this thing, it's completely square, it's level, it's plumb, and I never had to run one string, never had to put any stakes in the ground, because I hired somebody to do the concrete, and man, that was the best money I spent on the whole thing. So let me show you how I built this thing. Y'all are gonna love it. So I have a friend in the concrete business, and I had him come over and do the pad for me. So this is a 12 foot by 12 foot. And I also had him put in the anchors for my post. And if you notice, I come 6 inches off of this corner and off 6 inches here. And the reason I did that is I feel like I will probably be putting firewood down through here to store in the winter time, and I will put it between the post, and that way the firewood can lay right across there and lean against the post. Now, speaking of the posts, let me show you what I'm doing with those. So I am using 4x6 posts, and if you notice, these are treated, and you see how they have a square edge. Well, I did not want the edges to be squared off. I wanted them to look more rustic and look like something that had come out of an old building or something repurposed. So let me show you what I did. Don't know how well this is going to show up in the video, but anyway, I rounded the edges off using a planer tool. I'll show you that here in a second. And I also used a torch and burnt the wood so that when I stain this, it will also make some of this grain really stand out. Now you can see some scratch marks in here. I also will show you how I did that as well. And this is a small hand planer that you can buy at Harbor Freight for, I think, around $30–40. It's not very expensive. This is what I use to round off my edges with. And I will also show you a tool that you can use that will cost you about $4 if you don't want to buy one of these. So all I do with this is take it on its edge, and if you don't want to spend the 40–50 bucks, whatever it is for that thing, you can also buy one of these. This is called a 4-in-1. This side is rounded edge. If you look at it from this angle, you can see that it's rounded on one side and it's flat on the other. So I use the rounded edge. It also has a coarse on one side of it and a fine on the other. So I take the coarse, and you can do it like this to remove that edge. Now that is very time consuming, but it does get the job done. So you'll hit it with the coarse, then you go to the fine. Now if you're wondering about sanding, I do not have to sand, and I'll show you why that is. Now, to get some character into the wood, I do not hit it with a hammer. I've seen people do that. You can hit this thing all day with a hammer. All you're going to do is wear yourself out. So I take this old hatchet and I go down through here, and I can make X's, or I can make just marks like that. And when you hit those, you take these marks and you hit those with that torch right here, and it will bring those all that character marks out. And here's your good example of it here. This is where I hit it with the little small hatchet and just went over it and burned it. And it brings this out, and when I lay that stain over this, man, that looks so good. On these two front posts, those will be 10 foot in height going up, and on the back two posts will be 8 foot. So with these being 10 foot and the back being 8 foot, that will give me a 2 foot slope going from front to back, which is called 2 and 12 pitch, which will be perfectly fine for me because I am out here in the woods. So I'm not, I don't have snow in my area. If you live in an area where you have a lot of snow, you probably need to go with something different. Maybe go with 12 foot on one end and 8 foot on the other, or whatever you decide to go with. I really like how this one turned out. Now you can just put clear coat over this and it looks beautiful. Or I'm going to use a dark walnut stain, and that stain will get down into these little parts where I hit it with the little hatchet. And man, they'll really stand out and look good. So this is my helper for the day, but I can't get her to hold the camera still. You see how she just can't stay still to help me do anything. But I'm going to try to show y'all as much as I can of me doing this by myself. Hopefully I'll be able to without asking for help of either a family or neighbors or anyone. So now comes the fun part, staining. All right, now I see a lot of people using rags. I've never understood why anyone would use a rag to do stain. It takes up so much more time trying to use a rag. You get most of it all over your hands. It's just a big mess. Man, use you a cheap brush like this. Throw the thing away when you're done. See how beautiful that is? Man, that is so nice. When it dries and you put a clear coat on it, it looks just like it does now. See how shiny it is? Or you can go with a dull finish clear coat if you want to, but I just feel like it kind of helps protect the wood that much better outside. Even though it will have a roof over it and be protected from most of the elements, nothing wrong with trying to do a little bit of an overkill. And if you're wondering, is it really necessary to spend all that time burning the wood? I'll show you the difference between burning and not burning the wood. So this piece here is just a piece of scrap that I had. I'm going to stain it and let you see why you want to burn the wood to bring out the grain of the wood and be able to show it. Hopefully the video will show up, but you can see all the darkness that I've got going on right in here from where I burned it. And you don't really see that going on the scrap piece here. To me, that just looks a whole lot better to have it burned in than to have it just plain. But you could probably put about 3 or 4 coats on this here and it would look good too. Just keep trying to darken it up a little bit. But it didn't take long for me to actually burn these, and it was pretty fun. I'm sure you liked watching it on the video. It's kind of relaxing to me to do it. All right, so now I'm going to show you how I set these posts by myself. And if you notice, the post does not sit flush on the ground, or on the concrete in this case, because of how this bracket is made. So let me show you what I do to take care of this so I can have this post standing while I'm trying to get it straight and level. So I got this piece of scrap wood, 4x6 post. I've got it set in the bracket, and I've got this piece of 2x6 that I have taken this clamp and hold it to the clamp together. And now I've laid these 2 scrap pieces onto the concrete so that I can mark on this board. Now I will know where to put this piece here onto the real 4x6 that I really want to stand up here. And so now I have this scrap piece put on this 4x6, and I have the gap that I want here because I marked it earlier. So now I've got this on here. I'm going to put some screws, and that will hold this on here steady. These screws are just temporary. And now I've taken one of the roof rafters. It's a 2x6, it's 14 foot long, and I'm laying it along the side here so that when I stand that post up, I can run a screw right through it. So I'm going to go ahead now and put a screw in here ready to go, have my drill right here. Once I stand my post up, it's got that 1 scrap piece to hold it. Then I will screw in the side here to hold it from this angle as well. Alright, so there's what it looks like after you get it standing up. And now I've got that board running that direction, so when I get ready to stand up that corner, I've already got a board there to assist me in it. So yeah, it worked out great because even when I put the level on here, look at that, it's perfect. And now I can take smaller screws and put those, I'm using 1 3/4. I can screw those into the bracket that holds the post into the bracket. You can do that on both sides, the front and the back. And if you notice, my post on this side has not been stained. That's because when I had them on my sawhorses, which is over there, you can only do 3 sides at a time, because if you were to try to flip the post over, you would end up ruining the stain on the other side of the post as it hits on top of your sawhorse. So I'm just going to stain these this last side as the post is standing up. So this first post that I set is the one that goes onto the front side with my roof sloping down towards the back. So now I'm going to do the back post. And now I have the 10 foot on the front and the 8 foot on the back. And I'm going to repeat the same process over on this side. And I believe I failed to mention earlier that I have the 6-inch face of the post facing me, so that as I walk up, I will see the 6-inch face as opposed to the 4-inch face. I feel like it being such a big pavilion that it would look funny having just the 4-inch face. Now I'm going to put in extra bracing later on, so of course it won't matter that I'm only using 4x6. I actually wanted to go with 6x6 posts, but those were $50 a piece, so we went with 4x6. And maybe you noticed earlier, I like to get these fat kid pencils. Actually, they're pencils for kids. They're the fat pencils that are made for kids, not pencils for fat kids. Anyway, I like getting these because you can put these in a pencil sharpener, and to me this just works out better. Those square pencils, the good of those is that they will not roll, but you can put these in your tool belt, or you can set them on something else where it doesn't roll off. But I just found that fact out not long ago, that the square pencil is made that way so that it does not roll, which the fat kid pencils do. But I go at the first of the school year, and you can buy these things by, I think it's 10 of them in a pack, and they're maybe $2 or $3, not a whole lot. But I try to buy up at the first of the year so I have plenty of these. Okay, I got plenty of supports going on in here, and this is to help stabilize this as I put up the next boards. This is the front side, and from the front you will have a header that goes across here. My header is 7 3/8 in height, and my rafters that go from front to back, those are 6 inches. So I'm adding the 6 inches and the 7 3/8, and that gives me a total of 13 3/8. I come down from the top of that post right there, and I put that support in so that it is right at that measurement of 13 3/8. And I did it over here as well, and it will make more sense here in just a moment. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is take my tape measure, make a 3-inch mark right here. Then I'm going to take my square and pull it right up to that 3-inch mark, and I'm going to make this line. Then I will cut this off, and that way I will have a little bit of a nice shape to my header board. And here is the end result. And for all of those of you that thought there was this bracing was a little crazy, considering that it's only temporary, now is when you're going to have the aha moment where it's like, oh, okay, now it makes sense why he did it that way. So here we go. This is a 4x4 post hanger, or whatever you want to call it, that goes into the concrete. And again, this is 6 inches this way and 6 inches this way to the outer edge of that hanger. So if you do your pad, your concrete pad, 12x12, and follow those exact same instructions I did there, now your header is going to be 13 foot. You're going to do like I did here. I came down 3 inches this way. Then I used my speed square to give me this angle. Now I'm going over 10 inches and I'm drawing a straight line. Now my 4x6 post will come right to that 10-inch line, when I hang this header board up. So right there, 10 inches over, is the outside edge of this post right here. And now that I have both headers on, the front and the rear, you can see I got these temporary boards going up along these posts. So I'm going to take my rafters and I'm going to set them up on top of those supports, those temporary supports, just like I did earlier. Then I will lift them up and put them up onto the edge and screw them to the post. So as I told you earlier, I was going for a 2 and 12 pitch. So I have measured 2 foot up to here, and this is going to be my template to see the angle that I want to cut here. So I have measured 14 inches to this point right here, and now what I will do is I will take my level, and when my level gets to exactly the point I want it, I will pivot from this top point, and there's what I want. I want to cut this off so that I will have a flush edge when I put it up at the top. I'll also do the same back there at the back. I will use the level and get the mark that I want, and I will cut every one of these the same way. So on the front end, basically you can measure 1 inch from this end right here and draw you a straight line up to this corner on the front end. If you're on the back end, you do just the opposite. You measure 1 inch from here and draw down that way, and it will give you the perfect angle that you want, whether you're in the front or the back. And when I checked footage, I realized that the camera had slipped. So it didn't show where I put that, but you can see I put it up on the top of the header. And as I stated earlier, I cut an angle. And now you can see why. That board is completely flush up at the top just by cutting that 1 inch angle. And on the back side, it'll be just the same as what I want it back there. It will be a completely straight up and down on that cut. And there's probably going to be some negative Nancy's in the comments say that this thing is not plumb and square, because they'll be gauging by these trees. This is a white oak and it is leaning heavily, and so is that one over there. That is a white oak and it is also leaning. And just to prove, I will show you with the level. All right, so here we go. We're level on that side, level on that side. We'll walk over to this post. You see we're level here, level here. And of course, these temporary supports, they're not level or square or any of that. They're just for temporary only. So if anybody was looking at those and noticing that they're off, I just basically held them up there and screwed them. I didn't worry about how level or square they are. Man, I got to take me a little break. It's been a long day, and it's been very challenging. But hey, if I can do this by myself, you can too. I'll be 55 years old here in another little more than a month. So if I can do it and fight off these Alabama mosquitoes, hopefully you can do it too. Oh, but it's been pretty fun. As I said, I've got most of the dangerous part done. Now it's going to be a lot simpler from here. So looking forward to this thing being done though, and being able to get out here and do some cooking. Hopefully tomorrow I cook me a steak in this thing. I bet you thought I was going to tell you about VPN or some kind of sponsor for the video, didn't you? Nope. I don't do any of that stuff here. Not on this channel, not yet. Maybe someday somebody will pay me big to talk about their product, but anyway, let's get back to working. And this is what I'm using to put the rafters up with, and I'm probably using the wrong thing, so y'all tell me down in the comments all the wrong stuff I've done today. Anyway, I'm using that up there, and that's where I'll tie in the rafter. And I got these from my local Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware is locally owned and operated, so I like to always try to do business with them when I can. And one of my rafters has a twist in it, so I am making kind of like a fork. Here you can see there's a void in between these pieces, and I'll be able to straighten out that twist. Well, I got all my rafters up, and I'm wanting to put the board that connects on the front of those rafters, and I'm going to try a neat little trick. Hopefully this will work. Earlier I showed you a fork that I made, and I used this to straighten out a board before I screwed it down. So I'm going to try to use this, and hopefully it'll work on what I'm going to do, and if it does, I will show you how it will help me put that board up there. All right, so I put the fork, I got it screwed into that temporary board right there, and that way it'll kind of work as if I have somebody on the other end to hold it for me, hold the other end while I try to screw this board to connect all of these roof rafters. And here's the after effect of having the board put up. That was a pretty cool trick. I was proud of myself on that one. So let me show you something else I'm a little concerned about. If you notice down here at the post, how you got that gap. Okay, now that gap will allow these posts to move just a little bit. And I will be putting some supports in here, some diagonal supports. But what I really noticed that really helped this whole system out is earlier when I had the roof rafters, I had them temporarily down here and had them screwed to each post. And that's what I used to stand the post up and make them level. Man, I noticed it was a lot more sturdy when I had those. So I have stained some boards, and I'm going to screw those down there because this is going to be the front entrance and that'll be the back entrance. On these sides I'll probably have couches, and maybe on this other side have the cooking stuff. So basically people will be going through the front and the back, so it really won't matter what's going on the sides. Plus, if I build tables and all kinds of stuff, I will want something to connect to, so that will help me. And this is what I've done. I've taken another 2x6 and just put at the bottom to screw these into, and I can put diagonals down here, and I can also have diagonals up here. That will definitely help this thing from moving in a high wind. Last night before quitting time, I took some 2x4s and stained and burned them so they would match the rest of the woodwork I'm doing here. So today I'm gonna cut up some smaller pieces like this and make some diagonal supports on here. I'll have some down below that connect to the bottom piece and some up above going all around. So I'll show you those once I get them put up. But I got all my temporary supports down, and you can feel this thing move a little bit simply because of how they're sitting on those little brackets that hold the post up. So these diagonals should help that. Okay, on the sides for the lower and the upper, I used a 2-foot diagonal, and I cut those at 45 using my speed square. And what I'm going to do on the front and the back is I will run a diagonal that goes right up under that roof joist or rafter, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, I want to go right up under it over to the side, so it's probably going to be close to about 3 foot. I'm trying to use up some scraps that I had laying around. Matter of fact, I don't know that I mentioned earlier, but these rafters are some rough cut lumber that I had laying around, so I'm doing a lot of this budget friendly. If you even notice, some of my brackets do not even match. So anyway, I'm trying to keep this thing under $2,000, and that's going to include the grill that I buy for this thing and a TV. If there's one piece of advice you take from me, please do the diagonals before you get on the roof. That are the brackets braces that I put back there. Those turned out to be 32 inches. That's exactly what I needed, all 4 corners. And on the smaller ones, those are 2 foot. So 32 inches and 2 foot is what worked for me. You'd be amazed at how much more stable and sturdy this whole thing is. And now I feel safe to get on top and put my strips of lath up here before I put my sheet metal on. All right, so now I got all the lath or slat, whatever you want to call that. I got it all the way around, and now I am sliding my sheets of metal to start doing the roof. And you can see I've got my metal roof finished on here. Man, it is starting to become fall season. We've got acorns and leaves falling down on here, but yeah, I did get it finished up. And let me show you from inside how I screwed this down to the laths. And starting from the back side, I'll show you that these panels are 3 foot wide, and I tried to put a screw about every 10 inches on the very first row. That way, as the wind was trying to blow these up, it would have a tough time doing so. Now on the second row, you can skip that if you want to. A lot of people on YouTube, that's what they're saying as well. And you can kind of screw every other area, like you can skip every other one and screw the next one as you go up. And of course, when you get to the top, you kind of do the same thing you did at the bottom. You want to give about every 10 inches just to make sure as the wind blows, it doesn't try to blow it off of your frame. So I'm finishing this video out after I have had it completed now for a few days, and I want to show you a couple of things that I wish that I would have kind of done a little differently. Some things that I learned the hard way that I was doing wrong and had to go back and do them, etc. So let me show you what I realized. And probably the biggest thing is I've used several different types of brackets that you can see here. And I wish that I would have put them on the back side of these boards. That way you wouldn't see them from the inside. So it's not a big deal, but just something that kind of bothered me a little bit. And I can't stress enough how important it is to do these diagonals before you get up on the roof. And not only do I have them up here above, but I also have them down below as well. Now you may notice here is an additional post. I put an additional post in later on because I put a table on, and I wanted something to connect the table to. This is a piece of maple that I had. It's either maple or pecan. It's hard to tell for me the difference between the two woods. They do look very similar to me. And I did the same method of doing the burning, and I did not put the stain on here, but I did burn it and put clear coat. And I burnt the bark a little more than I normally would burn the face of the wood. So I like how that turned out. But again, I did add here in the back, I added this one post, and I wanted to do it so that it tied in to this roof rafter and give it a little bit more strength as it came down and sits on top of the concrete. And what I did is I did Google to see what standard height is on these, but I also wanted to sit under there and have my legs sitting under it and make sure that I had plenty of room to move around. I never wanted to feel like I was kind of crammed into space, but I also like this area here because of the view. If you notice, I've got a good view to look out through the back here, but I also like to shoot guns from time to time, and I thought, man, it would be good to have a target set up out there somewhere, and I could use this as a prop to rest my arms. And over at the end of the table, I've also got another post, and I did the same thing. I brought the post up, and I've got it connected to another rafter. And you can see that I've got more diagonals there, and I've also got a diagonal down at the bottom. Got diagonals all the way around at the bottom, and man, that has really helped out. So you will notice when you get up on the roof, it does still have a little bit of shake and shimmy going on. So the more diagonals you can get in here, the better. Now, if I would have dug holes and put these posts in the ground directly, you wouldn't have had as much wiggle going on the roof. But it has been so dry here for the last 3 months, it would have taken me forever to dig that hole for one particular post, much less all 4 of them. So, but yeah, I'm pleased with how it turned out. But that was the biggest thing that I wished I would have done differently, is put those brackets on the backside. And of course, I can always move them around the backside. And it did take me about 3 days for me to build this. I could have built it quicker. I did spend a lot of time trying to video it, and a lot of this was learning as I went. Now that I have done it, and some of the tricks that I've shown you, especially on how to stand up these posts here by yourself, man, that was a big thing right there. If I would have been a little quicker about that, that probably would have sped it up quite a bit. I do not think it would be a problem for somebody to build one of these in 2 days. Maybe one day if you were really busting it, really humping it, if you're young and very healthy. Another thing is you can do your burning of these posts and all the other wood that you want to burn and stain those during the weekdays after work or whatever. And then on the weekend, you can build this thing, and that's definitely going to cut down a lot of the time that it would take you to build this. So I've got some more videos. I got one video that I'm going to post a thing up here at the top, one of these corners, and it's going to show you about my solar system. I have solar on my house. Let me see if I can show you that. Here is my home, and up on the top I have the solar set up there, And I run that window air conditioner that you see, I run that 100% on solar. So that helps keep my house a little bit cooler. And I also run my deep freezer and my refrigerator on that solar. So I've got a video going on that. If you think you might be interested, I'd appreciate it if you'd watch that as well. Thanks for spending some time with me today. And if y'all build you one of these, I want you to tell me down below how well it turned out for you. Man, that would be awesome to hear from you. It's going to be a lot of expert opinions down below telling exactly what I did wrong, and hey, that's good too. We all need to share our thoughts and help each other do this thing right and do it safe. Thanks a lot, folks, for watching. Thanks for your comments, likes, and subscribes. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hope to see y'all again real soon. Bye-bye.